next 32 minutes or so, Birgitta Jónsdóttir, who in just the last year and a half has been really the leader with her coalition in the Icelandic parliament, defeating the banking looting. And that fight is ongoing, but she's had some great victories. I really admire her leadership. She's also in the film that we offer at Infowars.com, The Secret of Oz, how to counter these globalist bankers. But I wanted to get her on because we've never been able to get Julian Assange on the broadcast. He's emailed us back and forth. And I think he's done great work releasing the gun pod footage from the Apaches from a few years ago with the slaughter of the Reuters reporters and shooting the kids up and the pilots laughing about it. They released, what, a year and a half ago, a secret Army manual for Black Ops captains and above, how to stage false flag. But a lot of people I respect, like Tarpley, Webster Tarpley, and Wayne Madsen and others, they have concerns. And but, you know, they might be wrong. And so that's why I want to have a discussion here. But maybe it's how the media spun the 92,000 documents. Because Ray McGovern, who's coming later, he thinks this is really important, and I respect him as well. And I know he's for real. You know, he's exposed the Gulf of Tonkin event they tried to stage a year before they did it under Cheney, right before they left office, trying to start a war with Iran. But Hamid Gul told us a year and a half ago when he contacted me to come on the show, the former head of Pakistani intelligence. I was shocked by it. He says now's not the time to come back on in email exchanges for some reason, but we're working on that. He did tell the major papers that this was a staged release, that they put out battlefield documents that a lot of times are filled with propaganda, fake body count numbers, things like that, to say that Hamid Gul is running the Taliban. He says, yeah, I did run it with the U.S. when, you know, we were fighting the Russians. But that's in the Washington Post. Document leak, part of U.S. plot, says Pakistani ex-general with ties to Taliban. And I also am concerned that it says that the New York Times went to Obama weeks before when Assange had given him this info and got his permission. And so maybe that's the issue, that WikiLeaks didn't release this first to the public. They went to The Guardian, Der Spiegel, and the New York Times. And so maybe that's the issue, is how the mainstream media spun it. But Birgitta has, when he was in hiding a few months ago, was his spokesman for a time. She knows him. One time she was on with us, and he was in the background there via video Skype. So joining us from Reykjavik is Birgitta Jónsdóttir. Birgitta, what do you think of what I've just said?
Well, you said a lot of things, and I understand the worries that some people have about this release. However, I can assure you that Julian Assange did not contact the Obama administration weeks before this leak. What happened was that a journalist approached him from The Guardian about having an embargo and to work with WikiLeaks on just going through this incredible amount of documents. And however, I have had confirmation about that the New York Times actually went to the Obama administration 2 days prior to the actual leak.
Well, let me just interrupt, then I'll shut up for a moment. I want to be clear. I don't know what I said, but if I misspoke, I meant to say the New York Times went to Obama, not Julian Assange.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that is quite important because he can't possibly go to the United States as things are. However, I think if we just look at it a little bit differently, or at least how I've been looking at it, because we did do an experiment here in Iceland when the Iraqi video was released by working with journalists and giving them an opportunity to work the background material while we were working on making the video as accessible as possible for the general public. And that was actually quite successful in the sense that we managed to get all the necessary background information, such as tracking down witnesses and finding the children, and just to make sure that this was not a falsified video. And I do think that is very important that WikiLeaks does everything in their power to ensure that at least...
So do you think the criticism could just be paranoia, or maybe some people are a little bit jealous?
Probably a mix of both. I think it is very important that they actually did go through all the files with experts in investigative journalism, also to make sure that as little information would be there that would put lives at risk. And I've actually heard reports today that they did not manage to get out all the necessary information. And if that is true, that is, of course, very regrettable. I just also want to stress that I am not a spokesperson for WikiLeaks currently. I'm just speaking on behalf of myself here.
No, but I mean, am I correct in saying while he was in hiding, what, a month or two ago, that you were for a period, is what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. I did decide to stick my neck out because somebody needed to be accessible if the media or others needed to get some information.
Well, Birgitta, we salute you on that front. But you know, I think the concerns do have some validity, only in that we know the media is spinning this towards an escalation of forces that they now admit. The
thing is, you can't hold WikiLeaks responsible for how the media chooses to spin it.
No, I agree with you.
Now it is the citizens and the people that are working like you and others with more of a social media. It is our responsibility to make sure that we spin it in the correct on the correct path and to base it on the information that is found in these documents. And, you know, one of the things that I find to be very important, and many people have forgotten the warning that the Russians gave NATO before NATO decided to attack in Afghanistan, and that is, you're never going to win this war. And from these documents you can see that this is an unwinnable war. You cannot win this war. So I think it does raise valid questions as, you know, Obama promised to pull the troops out. I can't see that that is actually happening. So they're always, didn't you just pass a huge bill with a huge amount of money to carry on the war effort in Afghanistan while your nation is suffering from poverty and starvation? It's just, it should be an encouragement for Mr. Obama to carry on with the plan that he promised this nation, your nation, before he was elected.
Well, Birgitta, I agree with you. This is earth-shaking. As you said a month ago, that the info coming out would be earth-shaking, and it's a very complex issue. I mean, I think bare minimum, the media, mainstream media, is spinning the material towards an attack or an escalation of military forces inside Pakistan. And what do you expect them to do? I agree, the documents that I've looked over, and of course I haven't had time to read much of it. I mean, I've read quite a bit, but there's 92,000 documents, does show a clear picture of an unwinnable war. And so I think that you have a lot of courage, even, you know, being affiliated as a spokesman for a while when he was incommunicado. And I think Mr. Assange has a lot of courage. I've praised him in the past. I've just been confused by a lot of people that I respect having their concerns.
Well, you had like John Young on, and I am thoroughly shocked by the way he has been using his website just to publish slander from somebody claiming to be a WikiLeaks insider, just from the stuff related to things that I've been doing. I mean, there's a lot of slander about me and my movement in the parliament there as well, claiming, for example, that we are funding WikiLeaks, which is so ludicrous because we don't have any money.
Well, I mean, Birgitta, I think you're a wonderful person and you've borne great fruit, so I was not aware of that. I mean, let's talk about, from what you know about WikiLeaks, what you take away from this incredible information.
Well, from this particular leak or just in general?
I mean, just overall.
Overall, I think WikiLeaks is incredibly important in the sense that there is no other place in the world currently that offers such incredible protection for sources. And so there has been, if you just go through the website and look at some of the documents that are there, you realize how incredibly sad it is how the mainstream media has completely ignored some of these important leaks. And I think maybe this experiment with the mainstream media puts WikiLeaks on the agenda, gets it into the mainstream media to get more attention to what is actually being leaked. I think that is important. I think it is important that journalists in general start to work together, because everywhere you see funds being slashed when it comes to investigative journalism, and if we ever have needed investigation into the big corporations, into the military machine, into corrupt governments, we need it now, because we're in such a transformational state, as not only as individual countries but as humanity. We are running out of planet and we need to start to work together. And I'm really encouraged. I am so concerned about what is currently happening in the Gulf of Mexico, and I've been reading first hand accounts from people that are there, that are trying to do rescue work, and their accounts and then what you see in the media is very disturbing.
Well, we're going to talk about that after the break then, since you bring up the Gulf of Mexico. But separately, WikiLeaks released key Bilderberg info, and the mainstream dominant corporate media ignored that. So, I mean, early on, I've been defending WikiLeaks and think this is important, but then I get criticized. So I've been trying to really gauge it and figure out what's really happening here. But I do see the mainstream media putting the focus back on WikiLeaks like they're bad from one perspective, and Senator Graham calling for criminal indictments. And then I do see some of the alternative media raising questions. So that's why we've been trying to flesh it out and have a larger discussion. I wish Julian Assange would come on this radio show and, tell us directly, but I know he's tried to be impartial and just release the info without giving his views on it.